Ladies and gentlemen, we're just waiting for two of our panelists before we begin this morning's session. I'm going to give them 1 more minute, and if they don't get here, we're going to get going. Now that everybody's here, I think it's time for us to begin. Good morning, Dumelang, Goeiemorgen, Namaste, Vanakkam, Shalom, Assalamu Alaikum, Sawubona, esteemed guests. Sawubona, brave people. Sawubona, survivors of a global pandemic. Now, thank you. I say Sawubona because this is a very powerful African greeting. Translated literally, Sawubona means I see you. Interpreted, Sawubona means I see you as you are. With your pain, your fear, your joy, your hope, I see you. With dignity, I see you for who you are. That's what it means to say Sawubona, this very powerful African greeting. And ladies and gentlemen, as we come together this morning on a discussion, a roundtable discussion on solutions to the rise of mental health and gender-based violence in South Africa, there can be no better way to start off a session than the word Sawubona as a solution from the very beginning to this problem that challenges us all. So I say once again, Sawubona, ladies and gentlemen.
Sawubona mfowethu.
Yeah. So in case some of you are wondering what the correct response to that is,
Sawubona mfowethu.
there we go. So if I say Sawubona, you say Sawubona. I see you and you see me, as I am in my entirety. Now, if you're wondering who's this dashing young man in front of the room standing up and speaking to you, let me introduce myself. My name is Shaheen Hussein. I am what I like to refer to as an everyday South African. And it really is an absolute privilege, an absolute honor for me to be able to fulfill my passion for public speaking in such a session this morning. The thing about this panel is that these are all amazing human beings, much like the audience. And the thing that makes us amazing for this particular session is that we are human beings that are activists about the thing that's the most important, and that is being human. So, like I said, my name is Shaheen Hussein, and we are in the month of September, the start of spring, a new season for growth, for life, and a new season for solutions to old problems. So happy spring, everyone. May this be the season of positive change. It is said that if you have the attitude of gratitude, life will give you more reasons to be grateful. So as we begin, I would like to thank the Lord Almighty for allowing all of us to be here safely and in good health. I want to thank all of you, both our speakers and our audience, for taking the time and joining us this morning. I also want to thank PLeace for bringing us and putting together this event in fulfilling its objectives of using golf to bring people of influence together to create a positive change. This morning, ladies and gentlemen, I assure you, you're in for a treat. We have a panel of speakers that are guaranteed to give a voice to the casualties of a broken system as we discuss solutions to bring about impactful change. Now, being in a room full of celebrities, artists, academics, activists, diplomats, politicians, philanthropists, almost guarantees that you will learn something new. And today, I have a special request. Sharing is caring. So if you learn anything new, share it far and wide. I know Stephen asked you to put your phones off. I'm going to ask you to turn them back on. Turn them back on and put them on silent. Take pictures. Listen to what you hear and share stories with your communities, with your audience. You never know when something you hear, when something you share might help someone in need, might make a difference to someone who doesn't know where to start about a problem they don't even know they have. But a message that you put out there can make all the difference to that person. So yes, keep your phones on, but keep them on silent as part of the house rules so that we don't disturb our speakers. This also is a non-smoking venue. The lavatory facilities are through the doors towards the right. Those are your emergency exits. And that kind of brings me to the end of house rules. Now, as you can hear, I like talking, and I can keep talking, but I'm going to stop there and get straight into our program this morning. Our first speaker is going to give us opening remarks, and she is going to give us solutions from the start. There's a lot that can be said about every single one of our panelists. And if you want to read their bios, it is all available on the PLeace Awaken website. If you're not following PLeace Awaken on its social media, go onto Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, search for PLeace Awaken, click follow, share your pictures, and tag PLeace Awaken as well. Our first speaker, ladies and gentlemen, is a very solution-orientated lady, and I myself am proud to say that I'm an ambassador for her organization. If there is ever a victim in a life-threatening situation, how quickly do you think that person can receive a response for help? Just think of a figure in your heads. Even panelists, I ask you to do the same thing. Think of a figure. If somebody's in a life-threatening situation right now, they need help. How quickly do you think somebody can respond to them? 10 minutes? Who says 10 minutes? Put your hands up. Okay. Who says longer than 10 minutes? Hands up. Who thinks that it's possible for a response to come in under 10 minutes? But you know. Right? Okay. Who thinks it's possible for it to happen in under 5 minutes? Who thinks it's possible to happen in under 60 seconds? Ladies and gentlemen, our first speaker this morning is the founder of an organization that will respond to an emergency situation within 24 seconds for free. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Help me welcome Mara Glenn.
Thank you so much. You know, it's always difficult to talk at an event after an introduction because you think, oh my gosh, is that me? Yeah. So first of all, I want to tell you that when I give talks, I wear my crown. So people never forget that I do that. I've even done it with Miss World when she was being interviewed on the same program as me. And the reason that I do that is because I'm a survivor of intimate partner violence that nearly cost me my life. And I want people to be proud of their lives and to speak out. Because women hide it away, men do too, but mostly women, and they don't admit what happened. And because in our country, 1 woman in 4 is raped or abused, I do this to encourage other women to be proud of who they are and to speak out because of their abuse or despite their abuse. So very simply, Shahina said I would give you some figures. When I went to the police station to get assistance, they told me to come back on Monday. It was Friday, because there wasn't anyone there that could help me. And I'm not an exception, and it's not a problem in the black townships or the white suburbs. It's a problem around the world, but it's worse in South Africa. We actually have a very uncaring country. So when we think of the situation that people go to the police station and they don't get helped, and I'm sorry, that is the truth, Mostly you have patriarchy. I've got lots of men here today, because they get chased away at the police station and they get told, fix it up at home, come back, this is a home problem, sort it out. Guys, that's why we have 6 women every single day in our country that are murdered by their intimate partner. That's a very, very high figure. And those are people who didn't either leave on time or know how to leave, because we have such an entrenched system in our country that women don't know how to leave. They're ill-prepared and they're not courageous enough. Let's just think of it. We don't tell a young girl, go and get your flat and live on your own for a while. We say, you wait here till you get married. And guys, you go out, you go to university. So generally speaking, we carry forward patriarchy in the way we bring our young girls up. I think, personally, it's my own view, that every young girl should live on her own for a while before she gets married. Because then you know how to spread your wings. You know how to be a person in your own right. Share a flat with some of your girlfriends. Don't go from home to marriage, because you are ill-prepared for the difficulties of our life. So one of the things I wanted to tell you was that I went to the police station and they chased me away. They couldn't help me. And every single day I deal with calls. So what I've decided to do, I'm just a simple person. I'm not a technical genius. I've got a degree in business. I'd never thought of starting a foundation. But I realized that the service that I needed wasn't available in South Africa and in the world. So I thought, well, what did I really need? I needed to be able to pick up my phone, as Shaheen said, and within seconds, get the nearest place I could go to for help. And so I said, okay, well, I'll develop that service. I bonded my house. I decided on my dining room table, is there a database of places in South Africa where you can go to for help? And there wasn't. There are now, but a lot of time has passed since I started. And none of them are as comprehensive as ours. So what happens is, the service that I felt I needed was to get help. Where can I go? I was saying to the lady at the police station, which happened to be Central Police Station, as I was crying, please tell me where I can get help. And she's saying, come back on Monday. And so I decided that I didn't want anybody ever to go through what I went through. And it might have been a while back, but I can tell you I've never forgotten what I felt like. I've never forgotten how ashamed I felt. How I didn't want to tell anybody why I was getting divorced, that my husband tried to kill me. And so I wear this crown to remind myself that I'm a survivor, that I live in victory. So they always say you are a victim, survivor, thriver. I'm none of those. I'm an adventurer, because guess what? Every day my life's an adventure. I do the most amazing job. Can you imagine that my poor circumstances of nearly being killed enables me every single day of my life to make a difference? I get up every day and I literally save people's lives. Wow, what a privilege. So there's an opportunity for every woman to put on her crown and be proud. Just want to remind you how bad the situation is in our country. We've got a backlog of thousands and thousands of cases with the DNA. We are almost 2 years in arrears. That means and a woman who's gone to the police station and reported her rape case and been through the invasive situation of getting undressed, taking your clothes off after you've been raped, someone else putting something inside you to get out the DNA, put it in a packet. If it didn't come in your own car with the bag, you are given other people's clothes or a bag of clothes to wear. It is a very humiliating and degrading situation. And you're just a number, I'm sorry to say. So we've got all these thousands of women who've been raped, who've gone through this situation, and guess what? They've been failed by our government. The DNA tests are in arrears. That means there are rapists from the street today walking free despite the woman doing everything that's right. So I'm not going to give you all the other statistics about how bad rape is. We've all read about the number of pregnant young girls. We're not reading about what are they going to do to those people that made them pregnant. One of the most shocking things for me about pregnancy of young girls of 11 is that they suppose, because we don't all know how it happened, that they were being groomed by this male, because he's the one with the semen, that's how they got pregnant. So I'm not saying all men are bad. What I'm saying is I'm talking about these young girls, because we want to live in a society where men support us, where we support men, where we have relationships of our choice, be it a woman or a man. And so this is not an anti-men statement. Please, I want you to understand I have a male partner, and I want to keep him in my life. But we have to admit that rapists are generally men. And so these young girls that are pregnant at 10 and 11, is that they've been in a relationship with a man who probably was doing things to her before she could bear a child. And then when she became having her menstrual cycle, she fell pregnant. And the poor little girl doesn't even know what's happened. So where are we going with this? Are we fighting as parents for sex education in the schools? Or are we saying, I don't want my child to learn that? That's my question to you. It could be your daughter, your granddaughter. So what we need to do is we need to be a society that really cares. And I decided to start an organization that really, really cares. So when you call my number, like Shaheen said, I've got 4 different services. How am I doing on time?
You have 1 minute left. 26 seconds.
I can talk very quickly. Okay, can you all understand? When you call my number, we will ask you, what do you need? It might be a protection order because the police are not supportive. And I'm not anti the police. I know General Sotoli. I've met him on numerous occasions. But you know, he's up here and those guys are here. There's a very limited connection. So the police don't help you. They don't help you. And so what I do is I stand in the gap. I stand in the gap for these women that need help. So people phone me and say, my child doesn't want to go to school, she's wetting her bed. I'll help her get counseling. I've just dealt with a case where she got raped 15 years ago and she's gone into such depression that she's only wearing black clothes and hardly ever goes out of the house. I've sent her for counseling and she went to an event the other day which she hasn't been to for 10 years. At least, and wore a little bit of shiny. Those are my goals. Those are my victories. Those are my amazing things in my life. So I just want to thank you for listening today, and I want you to please acknowledge that we have a very big problem in our country. And we need people like you to step up. If you have an employee who suddenly starts coming late for work, be it the tea lady, be it the MD, because that's how you show. Maybe her husband or her partner, could be a woman, has stopped helping her pay the bills and she's feeling absolutely, totally desperate. So I just want to say, I so appreciate you all listening today. Please acknowledge, as Shaheen said, send out your SMSs. We have a problem, especially as men. For 16 days we're going to be doing a campaign called Magaga. And I really would love you all to be part of it and send out, because unless we work with men, we are not going to change our country. We cannot change it alone. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mara. Okay, I'm going to move on swiftly and try and round up everybody's conversations at the end. Our next speaker is a young man. A young man who, once we hear his story, I would like to encourage everybody to consider that this is an example of an exemplary, everyday South African superhero. Ladies and gentlemen, this young man is Eric Somagata.
Share my story today. It happened last year on the 8th December 2020. I was from work. I was working at the vaccination program. That day we knocked out very late. It was around 9 o'clock. because there were a lot of people who were coming for vaccine. As I was going home, I told myself that I will go home and just pick up some clothes and I will go and sleep to my auntie's house because it's near to the place that I was working to. As I was going to my auntie's house, I came across to these two people. There was one lady laying down and one guy, he was on top of this lady, and this lady was screaming. As I was about to pass, actually I was not passing, as I was coming closer to them, this lady recognized my face, that I'm Eric, and she shouted, Eric, and I stood. As I stood, this guy stood as well, and he saw that it's me, and I knew this guy. I'm attending with his granny at the same church, attending the same church. So, as he stood, he kicked the lady first. And I told myself that I won't pass this guy, I won't allow this guy to hurt this lady. Even if I know this guy, I knew him. As he stood, he took out his knife, he opened it, and he told me to stand, not to come closer. I stood, and I told him, I won't allow you to hurt this lady. And this lady stood up and ran, and he came to me and asked that, what am I doing? What do I want from him? Because this is none of my business. You see? And I told him that what you're doing, man, it's wrong. We're not supposed to do like this to the ladies. And this guy took out his knife and he just pushed me and he stabbed me in the chest. And he ran. After he ran, I saw that I was bleeding. I also went to the nearest house for help. They took me to the hospital. I was admitted for the whole December. At the hospital, I got COVID-19. You see? And the doctor said I should do an operation because the knife went through the ribs and it went through to my stomach. And my left-hand lung was damaged. So I couldn't breathe well. I had COVID. I was admitted the whole month and I had operation. They said I should do another operation for the lung. Okay? I was at home they discharged me around the 31st December. I was at home for 3 months. I was testing twice for COVID and I tested positive. Every test I tested for positive for 3 months. Just imagine. And what is said about it, it's that the guy who stabbed me, I went to the police station, the police took him for 3 days and he came back. Then they said I should do a protection order because they can't arrest the guy. You see, as she said that some cases are not well attended. So as we've came here today, we've came to find solutions about what is happening into our country. So as a young man, actually let me not say as a young man, as all males, it's our duty, it's on our shoulders to stand against this violence. It's our duty to stand and say, we won't allow anyone to hurt our sisters. We won't allow anyone to hurt our mothers. I stood for my community, you see. And even if I can meet this guy doing the same thing, I'll still tell him that you won't do it in my midst. We are here to find solution about this problem we are having in our country. I so wish that we can teach our young men to schools everywhere that they must protect their sisters, their young sisters, their mothers. I'm one of the person who was raised by a single mother. Why? My father was so abusive. So I couldn't stand someone and watch a male person abusing another female person. You see? So, as we are gathered here, let it be in our minds as we go home that we won't allow. It is, if this event was something else, these chairs would have been full. You see, it's on our duty. As you came to this place, it's your duty to go back and act it. I told myself that I will not only sing that we should protect our ladies, but I should act it as well. You see, as the gentleman said, we all have artists and a lot of people. As we go back, we should not gather here today and speak about it, that we should stop this and this and this and forget about it. We should go back into our homes and plant a seed. And this seed, one day, it shall grow into our country. So I'd like to thank this time and thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Eric. You know, ladies and gentlemen, it was the first time for me, myself, to hear that story. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that it is wise to learn from other people's experiences. And courage is not the absence of fear at all. Courage is doing what needs to be done despite the fear. And that story, I have to say, Eric, you are one of the most courageous young men I have ever had the pleasure of meeting. Yeah? As we acknowledge Eric's story, ladies and gentlemen, let it inspire us to take action. But as you heard, one of the challenges that he has experienced is a failure on the structures that exist to protect our people. Our next speaker is going to address this. In fact, again, I'm going to remind you, everybody's profiles are on the website. To introduce the next gentleman, I'm going to say that he has been an activist and championing public safety for as long as I am alive. Help me welcome Mr. David Tembe, the former Chief of Police.
Thank you. I'll say all protocol observed because I see we've got dignitaries here. Mine is not to say much because I'm disappointed at the police. Because as this young man is saying, he went to the police and he couldn't get help. It's not only him. I think it's plus minus 70% of our people who don't get help. I've been a paramedic. I started as a paramedic, and I learned everything about the assaults that I've seen, people who have been killed, I've seen it. But here we're here to come with a solution. Now here's the solution that I see the police can do. Not only the police, the firefighters, the first responders. In my time, our response time was 15 minutes. If you don't respond in 15 minutes, you are disciplined. So coming to what you are saying, right now, we don't have the response time. The police will say, if there's a house invasion, let's wait until it is done and then we'll go and respond. It's not a response time. We don't have a response time. The question is, we need to find a solution whereby we must react immediately to the scene of an accident or incident. Until then, the community will never respect the police. Remember, the legitimacy of the police to police lies with the community. Now, the community too must be able to work with the police, the firefighters, the paramedics, nurses. I was shocked when I see during last time they assaulted a nurse who was going to work fully uniformed, member of the public. It can't be. Because I realized that collaboration, if we don't collaborate, we will perish. Now, when one look at what is happening nowadays, we are run by the politicians. You see, the issue of the tenders is the one that has destroyed the profession. You can come and do whatever you want to do. You respond in time. The majority of the police are demotivated. Somebody was talking about the issue of coronavirus. With the coronavirus, the solution was we have to write a policy. Right now, what is the policy that the police have when they stop you? You'll take your driver's license, and he has to look at it, and then he give it back to you. So they become the carriers, and they want that distributing it. Drunken driving, you have to blow. I write the policy, I gave it to the chief of to the national chief of police, and said that this is the policy that we as an international association of the chiefs has drafted internationally, but it has never been implemented. So why? Now, the solution is our police go out there, do whatever they do, and then it dies. We give speeches. But do we go to the family that was going to? We don't. Because he goes home, his children hug him, they love him, they do everything. But we don't know how many of members of his family are dying or are at the hospital. And who will take care of the children? I was talking to Stephen, I said, most of the people, when I was the chief in JMPD, most of the people, of the officers who died on duty, right now, their wives are crying. The children can't go to school. Therefore, what are we doing? Now we bring people that are brought up by their grannies, everybody who's there to come and help. But we have been giving speeches. So the solution is, if we live here, I've spoken to some of these issues. Let's take care of the police. Those that are doing well. We've got few that are rotten. But let's take care of them. They'll take care of them. I've proven it. You have seen in JPD, they were changing tires, assisting people on the freeway when you are stuck. It's because they were given resources, protecting them, taking care of them. Those that are rotten, get rid of them. Now, when you come again to the issue of the chiefs of police, the chief of police must do what we call it meet and greet. Meet and greet, go to, let's say in Johannesburg, you've got 7 regions. You go to each and every region, introduce your commanders to the community. That's the solution. Because we come with strategies. We think we know. We are from universities, we are from everywhere. But the people who know what the problem is the community. Go to the community. Go to the taxi drivers. They will give you a solution. Go to the churches. One once told me and said that we need to talk to the church, to the priests and the churches. Because everybody who dies is buried by the priest, not so. Because those have got more power. And I would like to mention again, in 2009, we used to work with Mrs. Yvonne. She used to come and attend our issue. Because these are the people who motivate us. If I can bring Advocate Tulima Donsel, Professor Tulima Donsel, and the officers see her, and she give it to them, that is the issue that will change the policing. But for us to say that, because there's this thing, Yamapois, where they say, a civilian, he knows nothing. We are uniformed team. Once you put those peeps, you think you are above everyone, and you can't talk to them. So we need to change that and bring everybody. Collaboration, or we will perish. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we've heard from the police. Now we're going to hear from a lady who's a gender-based violence activist coming from an organization called Mosaic. They provide support to victims after the incident by helping them through the legal process and giving them additional kind of emotional support. But I'm going to let Caroline and Gubeni tell you a little bit more. Caroline.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Caroline Gubeni. I'm from Mosaic. Mosaic is an organization that deals with GBV. Mosaic is based in Cape Town, but we have an office here in Pretoria. What we do VEP, we do counseling, and we do court support, trainings, campaigns, and also main care. At Mosaic, our main mission is to fight against GBV. So we are based at courts. In Cape Town, every court has Mosaic offices. So we only have one here in Gauteng, which is Pretoria. That's where I work. We do court support. We help victims with protection orders. What they do, they normally went to the clerks, and the clerks give them only the form, and then you go home, you fill it. You don't even know how to write, you don't even know how to read English, and then you are given this form, this legal form, and then you must go and fill that form. You don't have money for an attorney, so that's where we get in. And then they, after the clerks, they come to us, and then we assist them with the protection orders. We fill the forms. Those who cannot write, we fill the forms for them. And then those who can write, we just go through the process with them. We do counseling for them, and then we refer to other NGOs. And then which is a problem also, because we have few NGOs who are running because of funding. We also need to expand throughout South Africa because victims need this program. So as much as we are trying to bring positive change, we are facing problems also. We are facing challenges. Challenge number one, the police. The police. It's a problem because you find someone who is battered. You see this person has been beaten like black and blue. She goes to the police. They don't even open a case for her. They tell her to go and open a protection order. A protection order is just a paper. Unfortunately, I'm going to say this. A protection order is just a paper. I had a victim where this victim was beaten like beaten. And then she came to court. We get a protection order. And I asked, why didn't they open a case first and then go arrest this person? Because this is also assault. Then she said, they said I must come and get a protection order. Okay, we get a protection order for her. They go and serve that person. Immediately when they leave there, that person takes out the gun and shoots that lady. Tomorrow they come and say, the lady that you were assisting, she's gone. This protection order says, like, I also think they must revisit this Domestic Violence Act because you get a protection order, you're still staying with this person. There's nothing that is being done to him.
Absolutely.
There's nothing that is being done to him. And the protection order says, we will protect you after, when he does it again, which is wrong. Why can't they do something now? Why can't they take this person and say, okay, you've got a protection order, and then you have to go and attend maybe anger management classes before you come to court, and bring proof that you have attended those anger management classes, or some sort of intervention before you come to court, before we can proceed with this matter. So it's a problem. You go to the police, they don't assist you. So it's a serious problem of the police. I wish I had 30 minutes. I wish I had 30 minutes. We also do campaigns. We also, because of the problem that they have, we also go to the police stations. Like, voluntarily, we go to the police station where we work with, and then we go to them and say, how about we give you a, because they don't even know the Domestic Violence Act. You go to the police station, a huge police station, and they tell you there's only Officer Makula who's doing domestic violence. Only one police officer, and there are hundreds of police officers in the police station. So we take our time, we go to police station and teach them about the Domestic Violence Act and the procedures of the protection orders, so that they know. And they know that if a victim comes, they must start where, and then support the victim until. And then the other challenge that we are facing is that there is no aftercare after victims. You just get a protection order, go back home. There is no other aftercare. You don't get counseling. Yes, there are NGOs that we refer to for counseling, but how about, we have only few shelters for women here in South Africa, a very few. And then you find that this victim is here, and then she needs a shelter. You can see that she needs a shelter. You call. Shelters are full. And then where does she go? She goes back to the perpetrator. So we need like aftercare. What happens to the victims after? And also we need to help the perpetrators. Men need to be helped. Like we need to. I don't know how, but we need to start with. Actually, we need to start with them. We need to start with solving their problem, whatever they are going through. I think it's a mental problem, what they are going through. Then we start there. We teach small boys. We do campaigns. We reach out, and then so that we can fight all this pandemic. And also, the government is not supporting NGOs. NGOs are struggling with funding. And we need bo Mama Yvonne, bo Cecilira, bo Papa Patrick Shai, na bo Professor, Mama Uthuli Madonsela, no Baba, siyanicela ukuthi nani nihlanganele nathi. Please come together, like you must come together so that with us, so that we get a solution to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker, I think, to introduce him, I'm going to share a personal story. I myself have been, I don't want to call myself a victim, but to an extent, I have been a victim or a witness of domestic violence, similar to Eric's story. And there have been many times in my life when I just wish I could go and have a heart-to-heart, honest conversation with my father for what he did to my mother, and let him know that I have no malice. Let him know that I forgive him. Let him know that while I may not have accepted his behavior, I understand that he did what he did where he was, knowing what he knew. And I have seen his growth, his change. Now, I understand that coming from patriarchal, toxic masculinity culture, it's very difficult for men to admit their wrongs. So our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, deserves your undivided attention, as he is a brave man who has come out in the public, admitted his wrongs, and making a concerted effort to do things better and make the world a better place. Mr. Patrick Shah, ladies and gentlemen.
It's very, very difficult to speak after such an introduction. The program director has taken 3 of my minutes. So I can sum it up and say, Kilangani, and sit down. Thank you very much. Let me recognize the wonderful speakers that are here. I've always wanted to be in the presence of Mama Tutli. You don't know, maybe we'll fit that at 55 years, but you've been a mother, the way you've carried yourself throughout the years of your service to this country. May God preserve you. We need more mothers like you. Let me also applaud my young men over there. Ntwana Machita. These are cheetah. People stand up, my son. You are my hero. You are my role model, despite the age difference. You are the face that represents boldness, bravery, honesty, and a face that seeks social justice for all. May God preserve you and give you strength to continue to recruit other young men to do so. I've lost now 2 minutes. I've tried because I speak a lot. Let me also recognize Mama Yvonne, who are here. You're blind, you know, my sister, for what you stood for and what you've done for the industry, the entertainment, creative industry, and all of that. And Machitaka Felali. So let me, I see there's more men in here. For the first time I address, or I speak at a function where there are more men than women. Big ups to you guys. So because I'm not good at time, I just felt I should scribble a few things that I can reference to. I want to speak to hope and healing. Hope cannot thrive in silence. Healing cannot be achieved through stigmatization. Change cannot come through denialism. My name is Patrick Shah. I'm a reformed perpetrator of domestic violence. And now, over the years, I've been an activist against gender-based violence and the prevention of femicide. My primary objective was to, in speaking out publicly, way back in 2009, I think it went against the grains that a black man, for that matter, could stand up and say, I used to be a monster that beat up my wife. But I did that because it was something that was not sitting well with me upon discovering myself, upon God talking to me through my art and showing me the devil that was in me. I needed to speak to the devil and about his evil ways. And it got me scorn and praise. There were men who were going out to say, hey, Donna, you did very well. And others would say, it is a mom, Miss J, man. But also, interestingly, there were those similar comments from women who I would meet in public, and some would say, Dadesha, you did very well, you spoke, and I could see that you were talking to my husband, because when you spoke through the public service announcement ad that you did with Brothers for Life, my husband changed, and we ran to the bedroom, and he was crying there. And others would come and say, Bomme, hey, who's doing to send out? So this, I then felt that there must be some kind of a movement that allows for men to speak out. Remember, the constructs of society dictates that men should always show bravery, be bold. And these are all the facades that society gives us as Batubaban, how we are socialized. Indoda ikali. And whenever a man cries, it's when we have to light candles in memorial services, memorializing the evils of men. The only time a man speaks is when he's in court because he has molested, assaulted, raped, or killed a woman. That's the only time we speak of Majida. But I want to say, it is no fault of society, nor is it the fault of the excuses that we make, how we are socialized as Batubaban. The fault, it is with us. We're denying ourselves as men the right to be human beings. We are refusing to be humanized. We want to stay culturalized and do everything that culture dictates to us, whether it is written or unwritten. But we want to act according to that unwritten code. Ya umchita, ngizombonisa. I'm entitled to. She is mine. She has no say. Ngimshadile. If angimshadanga, ngimshadile mina, I've married her. If there is no marriage, it's still courtship, I still have power over her because I'm provident, I provide. But it is so deeply entrenched in our belief systems that as a man, you are entitled to everything that you want from a woman. A woman, therefore, in your perspective as a man, becomes like a vending machine stuffed with everything you want. All you do, you put 5 rand and things that you want comes out. Sex comes out, respect comes out, or obedience comes out. Listening to you comes out of that vending machine, which is a woman. So I started speaking out because I realized that these were the trappings that made me the violent man that I was towards my wife. I wanted to give myself an opportunity to clean out this vending machine. The desires that I had that were toxic. The control that I had that was very toxic. The language that I used. The kind of eyes that I had when I looked at her in a moment of rage. How I used violence to defend myself or to defend my erratic ways. Umjolo. When you are a philanderer, you find ways to cover it up. Infidelity was one of my biggest challenges. And to make it silent, I had to put up my arms against Soanga Kulubi. And Amachida, we do a lot of that. We are not protecting, we are not fighting for justice. We are not fighting because we are wronged. We are fighting because we want our wrongs to be seen as right. So it became important for me to speak out and I found it healing that I was speaking openly about this beast that is gender-based violence and domestic violence. I found that it gave hope to the victims in my immediate surroundings, that there is a possibility for Mutua Munna to change. I do not believe in once a dog, always a dog. This is one dog that is now tamed, that is now domesticated, that is now humanized. Because I realize that we are inherently born wonderful people. But how we go, the things we copy, we want to impress, we want to affirm ourselves, we are afraid to say, I have anxiety, the fear of losing, of displacement, of not having control can be quite daunting for a person who is a product of a very toxic patriarchal society. And the fear of talking out, because it comes with stigma. As soon as I started talking, and people would label not only me, but also my kids, to say, this is the son of the abuser. So they become victimized. My wife had a different name. She was the wife of Mr. Abuser. So society can also become an impediment in men's desire to change. I'm afraid to speak because then I'm going to get labeled. But we don't go around calling white people racist. We forgive and we forget and we move on. But those that change, Machida, we will call them perpetrators forever, will never promote the culture ya change. I would love to see in this organization, 1 minute, that I'm running, it gave birth to the organization called Kulumandota, where I'm calling out men to speak out, but not only speak out, but also to act out. And I charge you now, as Machita, that our resolve to gender-based violence does not lie on public podiums, but lies in your heart and in your mind as a man. And the podium where you can practice that, it's right in your house. It does not help for you to stand up and do grandstanding, but when you get home, you become the beast, the animal that your family is afraid of. So change begins with you. It began with me. And I'm not saying it is easy, because coming from a comfortable, powerful place, it's not easy to traverse the journey of change. But we are here to help you change. So if you want to change, you just go to www.kulumandota.org, or you go to info@kulumandota.org, or you call me directly. I give my number. I don't create jobs, right? 072-722-1516, because I do one-on-one consultations, I do family reconciliations, I do corporate issues when people have all of these things. So I am that man who was brave enough to change. I can help you to be the brave man that God has made you to be. A brave man that your family will appreciate. A brave man who will be friends to his kids. The privilege, the wonderful things that I experienced with change is that it gave me back my kids. And the reason I changed was so that I cut the chain of gender-based violence, so that my son does not carry it over, does not do what Papa did, so that my daughter does not grow up in this toxic environment where she learns and accepts that it is okay for a man to beat her up because my father was doing that to my mother. I wanted to give them a new narrative, and only you and I, as men, we can rewrite the history. We can create safe spaces for women and children in our homes. The rapist comes from home. He's a member of the family. The rapist, the boy who kills and slices a human body, a woman's body, puts it in is a member of a family. He's a son of somebody. So somebody is absent in that boy's life. And that person who's absent is you and I, and we need to be there now more than ever before. I thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. There's a lot of strength in vulnerability. Ladies and gentlemen, just be mindful of the time. I'm going to move on to our next speaker. She's a director, a psychometrist, a musician. She wrote a song last year, and she's going to talk to us about how to uplift victims and restore dignity to the families. Anthea Naguri.
Thanks, Shaheen. Good morning, everyone. Isn't it amazing what we can do when we have passion? And I'm just blown away by all the speakers, and when I hear their passion, it's so good to know that we share the same passion. Is there not a cause? Yes, there is a cause. GBV is a cause which we all must stand for. And that's why we're here. And so, yes, I decided to raise my voice and use my ability of, as a songwriter, as a singer, to release this song last year in the year 2020 when GBV was reaching, just levels of such brutality and the increase of many women being killed in Women's Month. And the song is called Until the Tide Turns. And what it is, it's a song to empower women to know that they can break free from abuse and from a dangerous relationship. And so, in addition to singing and creating awareness and writing articles on mental health and GBV and all of that, and I know a couple months later we heard Lira's song as well, In My Body. And in addition to that, I also serve as a director at Focus on the Family Africa. And one of the things we do is we're international, so we have focus offices around the world. And in my recent interview with the US, they did not know, they had very little clue about what's going on in South Africa, what's happening to a young woman, how there's little value for a woman's life. And they were shocked as I began to tell them the stories and what we're trying to do and how we're speaking out and how we're bringing awareness, in organizations like Tears and the others, and the work that we are doing. And so, I since then, since last year and a couple of years now, I've been trying to do everything in my ability to create awareness, to see how we can bring change and how we can save our women and our children in South Africa. And so one of the things we've been doing is working with just the other offices around the world in establishing an international GBV committee where we come together to discuss solutions and implementations. So one of the programs that we run and have been running and is being rolled out in schools throughout South Africa nationally is called No Apologies. And No Apologies, it used to be funded by government actually many years ago. No Apologies is run from grade 8 upwards with both boys and girls, where we train, going to schools, we train facilitators. It is an evidence-based and research-based program. And so what we do is we go into schools, our facilitators go in, and they train young boys and girls in this character-based program, and it covers topics like dating, substance abuse, character, relationships. And so one of the things we're talking about now in our International GBV Committee is we're talking about how we can incorporate GBV into this program that can be rolled out in schools. So not just training young girls, but training boys as well. So, we can break the generational cycle. Like Patrick, you were sharing about breaking the generational cycle, and that's what you did. We have the power. There are things that we can't control, like with COVID, but there are things that we can control, like sanitizing, wearing a mask. And so with GBV, when we talk about prevention and talking about solutions, we have to cut it off in generations. And so one of the things I believe is that we all have roles to play. So there are people that go out and protest, and those protesters may not be able to influence the policy or change the laws, but they have a role. They're doing what they can do in their capacity. And so I really believe that my role is more in terms of prevention and for the next generation as young people, influencing their thinking and empowering them and training them in terms of what is a healthy relationship, what's an unhealthy relationship, how to look out for the red flags, what are the signs of an abusive relationship, and train them up early, so that they will know better. And I believe that behavior can be, behavior is learned and it can be unlearned. And so it's really important to know that we can influence thinking, we can influence young minds. They say it's easier to build young people than to fix broken men. And so in closing, because I know my time is up, I really, really believe that we can stand up for the cause and that we can push with all that we have. We can use everything that we have and whatever is in with our hands to turn the tide of GBV in South Africa. And so I really want to thank PLeace Awaken for creating this platform. I think it's a wonderful, great platform where we can come and discuss and have a space and share solutions towards this problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anthea. Our next speaker, ladies and gentlemen, and again, I'm just being mindful of time. I asked her, what is one thing that you would like the audience to remember you by? And she said that she is fearfully and wonderfully made.
Amen, amen.
Help me welcome Wenzile and Simanga.
Hello, good morning everyone, esteemed guests, panelists, photographer, videographer, the Muffin Man. I don't know who the Muffin Man is, but big ups to him. Those were some amazing muffins. Thank you for the organizers of this occasion and for bringing us together in one common cause, in one way or another. Yes, our experiences and our stories have shaped us differently. But one thing that they have shaped us to do is understand the need to be there for those who need you, to extend Ubuntu and to open up your eyes, your hearts, your minds, and everything to what's happening in the world. So, as everyone was speaking, I couldn't help but think, I had a presentation because I saw the people and I was like, okay, Nowenzi, this is PowerPoint. You need to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. Get yourself a laser, look all TED Talks, and then something said to me as well, because of the urgency of the hour. So in a lot of my work, I do mental activism and advocacy. And part of the theme of today's occasion is GBV, but mental health as well. And as everyone was speaking, I was tying it to mental health, to behavior, to interpersonal skills and interpersonal skills, all of those big words. But I just thought the white elephant in the room. As we say we are going forward, and it's interesting, I had a discussion yesterday with some friends to say that yes, as youth, we are very, very excited. We are super charged up and we are innovative. Just the other week I wrote a newspaper article and it was about the future of cryptocurrency. And I was like, you know what, I can make that feminist and Pan-Africanist. And basically, I was just talking about how it can we can use it for debt settling, or we can use it without the whole credit process or service down. Some places in India that if you get service down, you to get to town was a mission on its own. My husband's the one who told me that. When he went to One Young World, he's in the room there, he's fantastic. But he said in many countries, including India, passing to go to the toilet, you risk being eaten by tigers, and you don't think of small things like that every day, because you're used to your own challenges, you're used to water, you're used to the municipality, you're used to Fika. But one of the things that I thought of was like how marvelous would it be if that no one was in danger, you can use cryptocurrency and do so many things that involve philanthropy and charity, and that's the beauty of the youth. Our dreams, our innovation, our excitement, But one thing that I wanted to come here today and really talk about is where are we when it comes to mental health? We can't, or we must look at the future and say, this is where we are right now. And when I say we have to look at, again, this is where we are right now. Again, I was discussing with a friend to say that no one has been frank to say, how has all of these disruptions affected our indicators towards the sustainable development goals? And we need to take a break. We've lost 18 months. And how are we going to redirect and make sure that 2030 still happens, no one is left behind, but number one, we've lost time. Number two, we've realized new discrepancies in our society, and most of them, if you tie them to everything, whether it's child slavery, the air that we're breathing, a lot of it has to, and what we're eating, a lot of it goes back to our mental health. So I don't want to go on for too long, but the two things that I'd like everyone to think about and to take from this is that we all signed off and said that we are behind the wall to say that we don't want poverty, we don't want inequality, we want good housing, we want people to be able to go to school, we want water, we want people to be happy. That's why the UN was suggesting or is pushing on things like yoga and meditation. That is a world goal, that we want to be happy. But however, I think we should take a step back and say, where were we when we decided that we were going in this direction? And now that we, what does that lady say? Signal lost. We've been signal lost for 18 months. And now we're back on the ball, and whether we work in government and we work as activists, as consultants, I know we have a very multi-dimensional, multifaceted group here, but I would ask you to look at what is different. What have I seen that I never saw before the pandemic? And now that I've seen that, how do I change my strategy? Because if you guys weren't good people and you didn't want to do something, you wouldn't be here. So I'm assuming most of us are philanthropists, humanitarians, human rights lawyers, some activists or or businessmen, something that wants to contribute to the better good of humanity. So as you do that, as you give your money away, to smaller businesses and your CSIs and everything else, just to consider how the world has changed and how you've been affected by the world changing, and going deep into yourself and saying that how am I able to help redirect, reimagine. You know, there's so many exciting things. There's smart cities coming up, Africa Free Trade Agreement. It just allows us to become one, essentially. But when we become a one, what's the plan? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wenzile. So you remember when I introduced her, I said she's fearfully and wonderfully made. So our next speaker needs absolutely no introduction. So I'm going to introduce her by saying she's crazy. And I'll tell you why. She's crazy enough to have summited Mount Everest twice. Mount Kilimanjaro, yeah? Mount Kilimanjaro twice. Yeah. We're going to get to Mount Everest at some point, right? And she's actually contemplating doing it for the third time. And when she summits it, she usually summits it for a good cause. So ladies and gentlemen, the lady who has wonderfully made the previous speaker, help me welcome Professor Tuli Monita.
Thank you to PLeace, and thank you for this platform, but more importantly to Peace Awaken. We appreciate you, Mara, we appreciate you, and as everyone has said, we appreciate everyone in this room. We have one of the best constitutions in this world. Everyone sings the praises of our country's constitution. When one American judge who's passionate about gender equality was asked by an Egyptian journalist, would you recommend that the Egyptians take a leaf from the American Constitution in drafting a new constitution for themselves? Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, no, not at all. the South African Constitution. It is a constitution for all citizens. It doesn't only look back, it also looks forward in how to build an ideal society that is founded on egalitarian principles. And she was right. We have a constitution that is one of the few in the world that states a very clear vision of the kind of society we want to build. Very clear principles around the values to underpin that society. Very clear architecture of the nature of the state to regulate that society and transform it. Transform the present society into this new ideal society. And very clear accountability mechanisms to make sure that it all happens. And enforcement mechanisms. In terms of the vision of society, it says we adopt this constitution so as to heal the divisions of the past and establish a new society that is founded on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights. And you'll agree with me, when there's social justice and fundamental human rights, there is no GBV, and when it occasionally happens, there is no impunity. This constitution, when it comes to the values underpinning our society, the Constitutional Court said in Makwanyane and many other cases that the core of our values is the value of Ubuntu. But if you look at the interim constitution of 1993, it specified Ubuntu as a value. But the new constitution talks about achieving equality and human dignity. And the core court has said together that gives us Ubuntu as an aspiration. And what is Ubuntu? It's really about embracing everyone's humanity. It is the epitome of what it is to be human. When people say Mandela was Ubuntu, that's a whole book about what kind of a human being. So when I say to you, you are not Ubuntu, that's a whole book about what I'm saying about you, because Ubuntu is somebody who embraces the humanity of others, golden blue star, the person who understands that I am because we are interconnected. If I harm you, I'm harming myself. Your pain is my pain, my wealth is your wealth. Together, we're better against anything that we face as humanity. And of course, in an Ubuntu-based society, you don't interconnect. And one of the things that colonialism did, and I don't want to sound like I'm blaming everything for colonialism. I have expertise in customary law, and the parts of our constitution that deal with customary law, section 30, section 31, section 211, section 212 were drafted by myself and Professor Chadaban. Of course, we sent back to the parliamentarians and they knocked it into shape. Some of it we didn't like, but it was their job. We were just the experts. And what we knew was customary law proper was not at odds with human rights. Because the golden rule was the core customary law. I will only do to you what I'm prepared to have done to you. And a lot of the things that are attributed to customary law today are what my brother Patrick Shai says, culture. Over the years, as people were embracing things from other nations, people came into the mines and they taught each other Uchita and things like that. But when also they saw how they were treated, how when you have power, you could treat other people badly. And then some fellow by the name of Theophilus Shepstone wrote those things and said customary law is what we think customary law is. But I'm just coming back, there's a value system in the Constitution. And there's a clarity around what kind of government should be. It should be a government that doesn't steal from its people. It should be a government that is based on democratic values, which means it's participatory, it's inclusive, it embraces the 8 principles of good governance. And you will see those 8 principles of good governance from the UN. In our constitution, we have a much broader set of principles in section 195. And one of the things of the takeaway from section 195 is that government should operate with the highest level of professional ethics. So if we should be operating with the highest level of professional ethics, then what our colleagues, Anthea, Wenzile, Babushai, and the experience that was experienced by Maya and Caroline from Mosaic should not be happening, because highest level of professional ethics means you play by the rules, but at the core of what you do is compassion. At the core of what you do is humanity. But lastly, the Constitution, as I indicated, creates a polycentric accountability framework. That if this structure doesn't do the right thing, Parliament doesn't do the right thing, the judiciary is there. If the executive doesn't do the right thing, Parliament is there. And if the police don't do the right thing, the ministers are there. And in addition, even institutions that President Nelson Mandela said we added them because we knew that even the most benevolent of governments have within them people with propensities for human failings. Then it added the public protector, auditor general, etc. So what we have to ask ourselves, based just on the stories that we've heard, is if the ghost of Nosicelo Mdebeni came into this room this morning and asked us, why am I dead? What would be our explanation? Because yesterday we heard at Mbumba Foundation from Sibusiso Bilani that all of these things that we have in the Constitution are a promise. And you and me will agree, as those of us who are parents, that a promise is a debt that we must pay. So we've promised that we're building a community where we're healing the divisions of the past and establishing a society that is based on social justice, which is about equal enjoyment of all rights and freedoms by everyone. A society that is based on human rights, which includes the right to life. And all of these are the rights, human dignity. She would ask, why am I dead? Then there were 2 girls, which was reported a few days ago, that they were raped by their stepfather, 10-year-old, 8-year-old. If they came into this room, these little ones, and looked at me and you in the eye and said, our lives have been stolen, our hopes, our dreams have been shattered. Why did this happen? Who should I ask for? Who should I make accountable for this broken promise? What would be our story to these girls? But lastly, all of these things happened recently. One was Nosicelo Mdebeni, a student at Fort Hare, who was killed by her boyfriend, as neighbors listened and said, oh, it's one of their fights again. But this time, it was the last fight. And she was chopped and put in a suitcase by her boyfriend, a student at the same university. These 2 girls were raped. All of this happened recently. But a few years ago, Riva Stienkamp was killed. What if she showed up at that door and said, didn't you learn from my death? Why was my death in vain? Why are people still being killed at the hands of their loved ones? Why is intimate femicide still happening? Why is femicide generally still happening? Why is rape still happening? What's wrong with you people? What would we say? Who would we say owes this debt to Riva Stienkamp, to Nosicelo Mdebeni, and to these many faceless loved ones? We've heard from our young panelists, Wenzile and Anthea, and our colleague Ms. Ngubeni, saying that debt is owed by all of us. And I believe that's what we believe, that's why we're in this room. So the question is, we already agree that that debt is owed by all of us. It's owed by government, it's owed by judges, it's owed by the police, it's owed by academics, it's owed by me and you. So what are you going to do when we leave this room to make sure that we don't have more ghosts next year that are coming to ask us, why am I dead? Why have I been raped? Why are more people being killed? I'm certain that with the guidance that we're getting from Mara, from the commitment that we're getting from Peace Awakening, next year will not be like today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of our panel discourse. Again, be mindful.
I have one question and I want to ask the professor.
Sure.
Despite the fact that we have the most beautiful constitution in the world, we live in one of the most violent countries outside of one that's not in combat, that doesn't have a war. And it makes me wonder, where's the problem? And I'd like to suggest that, I read a book from time to time that says, the wisdom of men is foolishness with God. We come up with all wonderful things, and people call it evolution. Aren't we really evolving? I'm shocked to learn many things because I had the privilege of growing up with a father who was a gentleman. My father wasn't even educated. My father never used the name of Jesus, but he lived like him. How do we change our society when we think human wisdom is going to help us? I plead with you, please think. The more advanced countries become, in America there are 58 genders. 58. I mean, it seems like the more we rely on our intelligence and strength, the more foolish we become. Do you have any insight on this, Professor? Because, we apply our minds to the most beautiful constitution and yet we live like animals.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I answer that?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I don't have all of the answers there, but you asked me the right question. We all should start there. And I think where have we gone wrong is failing to ask where have we gone wrong. Every time we have these problems of GBV, the quick thing is to say, here are the plans. We have a recent GBV plan. Here is the money. So it's a plan on top of a plan and money. And a few years later, if we continue this trajectory, we have a new plan, I think. But we don't ask that question. And I remember when I was still in the Department of Justice, when we presented our first CEDAW report, that's the report to the UN on the Convention on the Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. This was 1998. They said, we see everything that we're doing, but we're not seeing an analysis of why. Why is GBV growing in South Africa? This is 1998. Wenzile spoke about mental health, but are you hearing anybody in government putting mental health at the center? Who chops people if their mental health is in the right state? In the movie Legally Blonde, one of the characters says, happy people don't kill people. And that's the truth. But I'm not making excuses. Kim Phoenix spoke recently, Wednesday reminded me about that at the United Nations, about us needing to get into that space. And also get into the space of redemption. When people have been there. So the first thing is we have to find out why. So address each case based on what is the problem. And then the question is also how people are raised. The third thing, this is my own experience based on a book I read when I was still at Burns. It's called The Backlash by Susan Baluti. Just recently, government came up with a policy that says 40% of all tenders are going to go to women. Because the rest of the world is saying, let's advance women.
but we're adopting it from the world. So if you go to a place where the Tumor Foundation, Women's Millennium, is looking at helping the community to use SDGs to lift itself, nobody has anything. You come into this community and say you're only going to lift women. Aren't you going to face a backlash? Because there should be horses for horses. We can't just cut and paste. You've got to say where both men and women are left behind. You don't lift only women. When boys and girls are left behind, you don't just lift the girls. You don't have a backlash.
Okay, I'm going to take just one more question because we're a few minutes away and I know there's golf waiting. So if you don't mind, please speak clearly from the back. Are you, okay, it's fine, no, it's fine, it's fine. I'm going to ask, okay, we'll take both questions, but we're going to ask you to keep the questions concise, to the point, and to whichever panelist, guys, please, if you can just respond to that question concisely.
Thank you very much. I don't think that I have any questions to the panelists, except to have a question to myself. One is that I think we are a generation that has lost it. That we fought, we came, we arrived, and then we were content that we have arrived. The policies that we've done, constitution and everything, that is all glory. Nobody else that is going to actually put it in place except ourselves. If we think that those books will do our work, they won't. What I want to advance is that education is one of the pillars that can actually change this culture of violence amongst this generation and the future generation. And I'm happy to see a young one being an activist and an example. We should then invest on themselves because it will be sustainable. Two, what is actually encouraging is that it must start with us and go forward. We can't, at what stage would we hear the voices of women when they are crying? To reach out to ourselves. What kind of human beings are we? Those are the questions. Thank you very much. I still think I have a lot. I'm sure. But thank you very much. I wanted to talk about police.
I think the next discussion we're going to have to invite you to be a panelist, so to give you the opportunity. My brother, do you have a question? Is it a short question?
Very short.
All right.
Only 1 hour.
Quickly, okay, quickly so I can wrap up.
Mine is for Shai and broadly, I guess anyone in entertainment is which platforms do you use to reach as proactively? But also secondly, just for a request for content that reverses what's happening, because in as much as someone might argue that TV is a reflection, but it's also a creation of what happens. So too many things normalize nonsense. So I can leave here, but there's many things I'm going to see before the end of today that normalize nonsense. I'll give a quick 10-second example. Our daughter just turned 3 this year, but in 1 week of just overhearing certain programs, she changed how she speaks. So it's all of that, So we don't have, I speak as a man, that there isn't enough content out there that is showing the right picture in terms of what we want to achieve. We know things are happening, so we don't need to be surrounded by that in terms of content. Someone needs to show what that reformed man looks like. Someone needs to show what the right role is in terms of content.
Thank you for the question. I think it will be a great honor to give to my sister, Ambassador Mama Yvonne Chaka or Machaka to respond to the question. Mama Yvonne, over to you.
Okay, I'll try. I really don't know what to say. But thanks to all of you guys for being who you are and doing what you're doing. I think those who buy content, whether it's at SABC or TV, and they'll prefer to buy what makes them happy and what makes their pockets deep. I think we've got so many young people out here who are storytellers. And I think we as South Africans have to start writing our own stories. Because if we don't, other people will write our stories and they will distort it. As early as 1986, when I started singing, I grew up in the township during the apartheid years. Mothers, we've seen them being battered. And that's why I sang songs like I Cry for Freedom. But they were in both ways. It was crying for freedom, which is the freedom of being a liberated person. And it was freedom from a man. So I've done this through my music since 1985 when I started singing, because I knew that with music, you disseminate information and you can conscientize the public with music. So it's not only what you see on television, it's what the child sees at home as well. So there is a lot of content that is there, but because something that is very good, unfortunately, in this country, it doesn't sell and it doesn't make people's pockets deep. So I think we shouldn't despair, we should do this. And to Patrick Shayi, who is a real superstar, I mean, really, for you to change, I must say, I really loved you, but something in my heart hated what you did. But now, I love you even better, and God loves you. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know, any event, it's really very difficult at the end to try and bring everything together
in as short a way as possible. Much has been said, and I hope and believe and pray that you will carry this message forward. Just in conclusion, I'm going to end in 3 points that hopefully you will remember and will spark the conversations and the sentiment that we have heard this morning. The first one in general, I wrote a note where I remembered Martin Luther King saying, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And in South Africa, we carried a narrative, an injury to one is an injury to all. Because of our belief in Ubuntu, I am because we are. It takes a village to raise a child. These are values, African values, that we don't just believe in, but form part of the same culture that make it okay to do bad things. So I want you to keep that in mind. On the issue of mental health, my closing remark is, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. On the issue of gender-based violence, I want it to be known that, again, a Martin Luther King quote, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." Doesn't matter how that challenge, it doesn't matter what that controversy looks like. Whether it's unresolved emotional trauma, whether it's financial strain, whether it's socio-economic challenges, he will be measured by the choices he makes in those moments. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, with the attitude of gratitude, thank you all for showing up. Our panelists, my fellow panelists and colleagues, thank you guys for sharing your stories and being here with us today. I trust all of you will enjoy the rest of the day. And our panelists are not going to run away straight away, so if you did have a question that hasn't been answered, please feel free to come and ask them. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day with us.